So I want to know, have you ever Googled yourself? I don't recommend it. But if you do, you'll soon realize that every place your name is mentioned online, Google is taking notes and just filing that away. And when you type your name in the search bar, you're basically saying, hey, Google, show me the results for this keyword, which happens to be your name. So am I going to teach you today how to keep your name off Google? No, I can't do that. But keywords are going to be a big theme in my upcoming SEO workshop. And today, this is just a quick preview of what you can expect in that workshop next week. So just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Andrea Shirey. I'm the owner of 19design and a certified SEO trainer. My website, 19design.net, ranks #1 on Google for 7 different keywords. About 85% of my website traffic comes from Google. And my conversion rate for my digital sales ranks among the highest in my industry. So I think I can teach you a thing or two about SEO. So by the end of this Facebook Live, which is not going to be real long, again, this is just a preview of my bigger workshop, you'll not only have that preview of what to expect in the full 90-minute workshop, but I'm going to give you at least one practical tip that you can implement right away, even if you don't register for the full workshop. So before we dive in, could you give me an emoji, a thumbs up, something in the comments that lets me know the audio is all working, you can see my screen, and then we will get underway here in just a second. Going to swap over my screen here. And okay, there we go. All right, so we're going to jump right in. Again, this is a preview of a bigger workshop, so it's going to feel a little clunky here at the beginning because we are not going necessarily in order. But I've just picked one topic out of the workshop that we could get a little specific on here on Facebook, so you could walk away again with a practical tip that you can use today, but that you're also know you're going to get much more information along these lines next week. So one of the big SEO hacks or tools that I teach is how to make your URL SEO friendly. And so remember that your URL is just that address that goes up in the domain bar on when you're bringing up a website, and that's something that has to be created. There are automatic URLs that are created within your website platform, but you have the power to change those. And that is the big piece of what we're going to talk about today. So I want to start off the bat here with just 4 little URL best practices to keep that URL address SEO friendly. So the first one is that your URL should be lowercase. Now, this should be automatic in your website platform, but sometimes that can come out as all caps. And as we all know, all caps sends a unique kind of message that we don't really want to send. So we want to make sure that your URL is all lowercase. We also want to make sure that you're not using any complicated special characters. What I mean by that would be like the % or the ampersand. We don't want to use the underscore. That can easily get confused when people are typing in an address, and Google doesn't really love those. Hyphens are okay if you need to use those, and I actually recommend that, especially if we're going to talk about what a permalink is. But if you have a permalink that's 2 or 3 words, the hyphens really make that easier to read. So speaking of keywords there, we talked about when I opened this video up, we want to see if we can get at least one of your keywords in your URL. Now, again, we're going to go much more in depth all about keywords in the full workshop, but just so you know, a keyword is just that 1 or 2 word that you're kind of known for. Someone's probably searching some variation of that word when they're looking for your website. So for me, my keywords would be things like website design, SEO training, nonprofit templates. Those are my keywords. And so I try whenever possible to include at least one of those keywords in my URLs. For example, the URL to register for my workshop is /SEO-workshop. So we want to try to work in at least one keyword. We don't want to stuff the link with keywords that's spammy. We don't want to do that. And it's not going to make for a great user experience. And then the last thing that your URL should do is it should give users a hint at what to expect. So if your URL is, say, slash workout plan, and I click on that page and I'm seeing things about how to watch your favorite TV show online, I've not really served my reader well. And so we want to make sure that those URLs are as descriptive as possible. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples, and you'll see one that is, and then a couple that aren't, to make that make sense. So hopefully that's coming through, and you guys could got the hang of that, of those best practices there. So let's look at an example. And of course, I'm going to give you a good example that's from my own website. So this is from an actual Google search that I did the other day, and I searched for board report. So you can see here, this is an exact snippet that I just copy and pasted off of Google. And you can see here that you're going to have, this is your website domain here, so that we don't change that. But then you're right following that you have the slash and then what we call the slug. And so for a blog, all of your blog posts are going to have the same slug. Sometimes, you'll have another set of pages on your website. It might be services slash and then all of your different service pages. But that whatever immediately follows the slash is called the slug. And then if you have a further page from there, like we do as a blog post, the blog post is going to have what's called a permalink. Now, the permalinks are really, really important. That's really where we get specific, because in this case, as you can see, I can't do a whole lot with the slug because the blog is the blog and I need that to be short. But I can tell them, okay, now they're going to see that this is not only on the blog, this is a post, and I've given them a 2-word, very descriptive permalink, board report. Those happen to be one of my short tail keywords. And then you can see here the title of my blog post is also equally important, because that's going to be that big bold text that people see on Google. And I'm telling them right off the bat, this is what this post is about. Here's what to include in your nonprofit board report and a template. Now, again, Google is also picking up the words in this title. So I've included a couple of keywords there. The nonprofit board report, that's called a short tail keyword, and then also the word template. So this particular blog post is one of my highest traffic posts. It links to a paid product. And so I can follow that trail in my analytics and see that a big majority of people who buy that template product have come as a result of this blog post. And they got to that blog post by searching for the words board report on Google. So that is a tip on how we can look at our analytics at a very simplified level, see what the user behavior is, and then we can get them to come along right to the exact page we want to lead them to. Now, here are a couple of examples of videos that are not so great. I'm sorry, of examples of URLs or permalinks that are not great. So this first one here, as you can see, this is a default with some website platforms. They'll do that P equals and a number. So you can find that all over the web. Not helpful at all. I have no idea what that page is going to give me. Even the next one tells me that, yes, I'm going to a blog, but then I have a string of dates that happens to be the date the blog was published. And then I do have that small business website. That's not bad, but we really don't need all of that date. They're going to see the date in the search results, and the date is largely unimportant. And so that one turns out to be a little long. And then that last one, it doesn't have the date, but it's got that big long string of words afterwards where they could have just kept that short and simple. So you can see there some poor examples. The same thing down here at the bottom. Again, this first one, which one of these, would you click on? That first one says, okay, I kind of know what this is about. But the second one, this articles / again, we get a date, and then we get a big long string of random characters. And so that's not going to be appealing for someone to click on. they're not going to really know what to expect, and someone's probably not going to want to share it either if they're not really comfortable in what they think that page is all about. So short and concise with a keyword. We don't need the dates in there, and again, these are things that you can change, even though you have some defaults in your website platform or wherever your website is built. I'm going to show you a couple of popular examples in just a second, but just kind of to give you a little more inside look at why these URLs matter. Short URLs perform better than long ones. There is a ton of data out there from Google, also from Bing, that tell us this. And I can see that in my own analytics. You'll probably be able to see it in yours, but we really don't even have to research that because we know that the shorter the URL is, the better it performs. Part of that is because when we are forced to be short, we are forced to be more descriptive. And so those two go hand in hand. And again, the descriptive URLs are telling the search engine and your user what the page is about. So just like we use our website to use keywords and headlines and use paragraph sections with headers, just like that content is telling Google what your page is about, your URL is telling Google what the page is about as well. It's just one more thing that we can control and we can get over to Google's, internet gods there. And again, we always want to serve the user really first before we serve Google, but by serving the user by making those URLs short and descriptive. And then be specific. Like I said, when I tell you don't have as many characters to work with, you're really going to get great at boiling that down into, okay, what is this post actually about? What do I think people are searching for that I want them to see my result? So, okay, so we've just kind of blown through that, but I want to tell you how you can fix some of your URLs, but I do want to give you a warning. So please listen carefully to this warning. If you change your URLs, which you absolutely should to make them fit this best practice criteria, you have to make sure you're not breaking your links. What do I mean by that? I have a Pinterest page for 19 Design. I have a business Pinterest account, and all of my blog posts are automatically shared on Pinterest. And the Pinterest pin is linked to the blog post title. If I go in my blog today and change the URL, and someone clicks on my pin, they're going to go to a broken link, and that's the last thing that I want. So if you change your URLs, you will have to set up a redirect to say, okay, if someone types in this, I want them to go to this page instead. That is typically pretty easy to do. If you really have questions about that, you want me to help you figure out where that setting is in your website platform, I'm happy to do that for you. I have a ton of redirects that I'm slowly working through from when I did a website upgrade. You don't want to have too many redirects because that really slows down your site speed. If you think about that, Google has to immediately say, okay, they clicked on this link, but really it needs to go over here. So I just want to give that warning before you update any of your URLs. Please make sure and set your redirects so that you don't lose that traffic. So how do you fix them? And if you have a Squarespace website, which all of my clients do, your slugs are set under the page settings. That's just the little cog wheel that's the end of your page title. Click on that wheel. You're going to see the slug right there that you can change whatever comes after the slash. Super easy. Your blog post permalinks, and again, that's what follows the slug slash, is under your blog post settings, and it's called post URL. And typically the default there is pretty long. So I always wipe that whole default out and start over with my 1 or 2 keywords. Now, if you're using WordPress, I'm not a WordPress expert, but I was able to Google this answer. You can set up a WordPress page slug by just looking, they call it permalink URL right on your page, and you can click edit and save that. And it's called the same thing in your blog post. You want to click on the title box, and then you'll see that box containing the permalink URL with a little edit icon. So you can go in there and update your URLs based on these best practices that you learned today. Again, make sure you set your redirects as soon as you do that so you don't lose any of your website traffic. So as promised, this is just a little quick preview of my SEO for Small Business workshop that is happening on Thursday, February 18th. It is a live workshop, but anyone who registers will be able to access a recording. And so if for some reason you're coming across this preview after the workshop has ended, no worries, you'll still be able to access the recording. But you might be wondering if this is the right workshop for you. There are a lot of online trainings happening right now, and you certainly want to respect your time and the presenter's time by making sure you're in the right place. So I would say this workshop is for you. If you meet any of these topics, you're confused about SEO, or you find it confusing to understand all of the terms that are out there, and there are a lot, like permalink. You probably maybe didn't know what that was before today. Or if you're not getting the website traffic that you want from the right people, this workshop is going to help you do that. I'm going to teach you how to appeal to the right audience and how to know who the right audience is for you, because you can have hundreds of thousands of website visitors who do nothing and take no action on your website, and that will not help you at all. But if we get the right people on the site who are ready to have, to book your service, to buy your product, to enroll in your program, then these tips are going to be able to help you get them to do that. If you also want good information, but you want it explained in simple terms and some practical advice, that's my style. As you can see today, I don't give you any complicated tech. I just tell you the information in as simple of a format as I can and try to help you understand what's really happening behind the scenes. We're not going to get caught up in all of the tech speak. It doesn't help us to do that. Or like I said, if you just want your business to get more visibility so you can offer your product or your service to more people, I think this workshop is going to equip you to be able to do that. So you might be thinking, but Andrea, what if I don't have a Squarespace website? Well, that's okay. Yes, I teach primarily using Squarespace. I often use examples from Squarespace, but all of these concepts can be implemented across any website platform. I'll be able to give you basic level advice on many of the platforms out there, or at least tell you what to look for. And then I also have a great network of website designers that I work with all the time that I can refer you. So if you have a WordPress site, or if you have a Wix site or a Weebly site, I can help you point you in the right direction on how to implement what you learned from me. If you're not a small business, that's okay. If you're a big business, you can still absolutely come. And if you're a nonprofit, I think there are going to be some tools in here that nonprofits can use. If you know me, you know that that is where my heart is. The big part of my business is serving nonprofits. But I absolutely use all of these SEO techniques on the nonprofit websites that I build. And I think they can definitely help you attract more volunteers. They can help you attract donors. If you're running a capital campaign, raising money for something specific, you're probably not the only nonprofit doing that. And I can help you learn how to stand out on those Google search results. What if you can't attend live? Like I said, that's completely okay. The workshop will be recorded. The recording will be available to anyone who registers just a few hours after it ends. So you can go back and watch it again or share it with someone on your team. And then if you're not able to watch it at all, you can come back in and just access that recording later. I will also probably be selling the recording as a separate product at some point, though I can't guarantee that. So if you're at all interested in getting this information, I do recommend that you just go ahead and register. That way you'll know that you'll have guaranteed access to the recording. So again, here's a little snapshot of what you're going to learn in the larger full SEO workshop. I'm not going to read all of this. You can read that on the screen, but essentially we're going to talk about the website settings that might be hurting you, some of the defaults that come with website builders that you want to adjust. We're going to talk about the analytics you need to look at. So you can basically be a mind reader and figure out what people actually want from your website. That information is at your disposal. You just have to know where to look to get it. I'm also going to help you find the best free and some paid resources on SEO. If you're a big DIY fan, you don't want to hire somebody to do this for you, that's completely fine. I'll show you where you can outsource a lot of that work and some of the tools out there that make it really easy. that I personally use probably on a weekly, if not daily basis. We're also going to talk a lot about how to craft a homepage on your website that tells people they're in the right place, and it gives Google all the information it needs to show that page to the right audience. This is key. This is really what this whole package rests on, because typically your homepage is going to be the first page where someone lands. And if you don't grab them right away, you're going to miss a big part of the right audience. We're going to talk about what has to be on that homepage, the sections of that page, how it should be laid out to really not only serve your user, but tell Google exactly what kind of people you want to come to your site. And then we're going to talk about how to write effective SEO descriptions. You might have heard the word meta tag. We're going to talk about how do you write those, best practices for those on both titles and descriptions, so that, again, we can serve your website visitor, but also serve the search engines. And then we're going to talk a lot about keywords, how to find the right keywords for your business. I'm going to teach you how to look at what your competitors are ranking for online, and then figure out how you can get some of that traffic too. This is a big one. This is something probably worth twice the price of the workshop by itself. So if you're wondering why XYZ company over there seems to have all of the website traffic, and you guys do about the same thing, I'm going to show you how you can figure out why their website is ranking for those words and how we can get yours to rank that way too. So that will be a big part of the workshop. So